Welcome to Teresa's New Dawn. I'm here to show you that this stage of life is full of endless possibilities, whether it's traveling solo or simply finding joy in the little things. Let's dive in. My guest today, Asia, is the owner of No Label Candle Company. She traded her corporate marketing career in tech and entertainment for entrepreneurial life. Inspired by her own need for relaxation in stressful Brooklyn, she launched No Label. A layoff became the catalyst for her full-time commitment to the business. Having worked with Asia on affiliate marketing initiatives, I know she's ready to share valuable insights into entrepreneurship today. Please join me in welcoming Asia. Hi, Asia.
Hey, how are
How
you?
are you?
I'm doing well. I think it's been a long year and it's only January. So, how are you
Well,
doing?
thank you for joining me today. And I'm doing good. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
anytime.
had a couple questions. So if you don't mind, we'll go on and get started.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
So people have varying degrees or varying ideas of what entrepreneurship is. Can you share what your idea of entrepreneurship is?
My experience with entrepreneurship or belief is that it's the opportunity to kind of raise your own corporate baby, right, or raise your own child. You are the sole responsible one to hold the responsibility when it comes to entrepreneurship. It requires a lot of you financially, mentally, spiritually, but it's also very rewarding. So to me, entrepreneurship is definitely a faith goal to have, because you have to have faith in yourself and you have to be a little delusional to believe that you will succeed.
Thank you. Thank you. I like that. So you've worked in a corporate environment. Can you share just a little bit about your background and
Yeah.
then what roles did you have?
Yeah. So in college, I studied advertising and psychology. So I have two degrees. And I studied psychology because I wanted to know how people, like, I'm very observant with people, and I wanted to know how people like thought and how that would drive their decision makings, including purchase decisions. So after graduating, I worked for a media agency in New York City. That's how I got to living in Brooklyn from going to school and living in Atlanta. And I worked on a CPG brand, which is a consumer packaged goods brand, as well as a tech company. I've always been interested in entertainment as well. So when I left that agency, I went to the publisher side. So publishers are people who now they're everybody who's a content creator, content producer. You are a publisher because you're publishing content that people want to consume. So I left the agency and then I went to Marvel Entertainment. I worked on different types of products or films such as like Captain America Civil War, all the way down to Black Panther, the first Black
Oh,
Panther. That was
wow.
my last movie there. Um, and working in advertising, both in the media agency in terms of taking the dollars from the clients and sending out requests for proposals and saying, hey, I have $1 million and my client's audience, they love watching Black Panther. Can we, do some product placement or get some ad space on your .com site, stuff like that. Moving to the publisher side, you're the one that has the inventory. So you're basically taking those dollars, from the brands and saying, okay, yes, we can place you here, here, and here. I remember vividly that Lexus was a big product placement for Black Panther. And then I
Mhm.
did the same thing for Spotify. And then I moved to a tech company and did global marketing for them. So it was kind of like a 360 approach with global marketing and advertising.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've always kind of wondered when I'm watching those movies, and I do remember Black Panther, them having, I think it was the Lexus SUV in
They
that
pay
movie.
for it.
So yeah, so
They
it's
pay
it's
for it.
the Lexus would pay for it, or the movie would actually pay for it for
Lexus
having the
pays for it because what
uh
what you're doing in advertising is like you're paying for eyeballs, right?
okay.
So It's kind of like with No Label Candle Company, right? And where I am with my business right now, we talked a little bit about you helping with affiliate marketing or influencer marketing. I know I have an amazing product. You know, I have an amazing product,
Yes.
but you consume it. But if nobody knows about it, then it
Yeah.
just sits in the warehouse. So when you have product placement or advertising, like when you see commercials on your television or on your phone when you're scrolling on your app, people are paying for that space because they want to say, "Hey, my name is Asia and I own No Label Candle Company. And I make handmade, eco-friendly products. Please try my products," instead of going to, a big box seller of candles and fragrance products, who put a whole bunch of chemicals and carcinogens. Like, look over here, and you have to pay for that time and space. So, in the film industry, normally what will happen is they'll have like a big budget, and they do licensing deals as well. So let's say that in the store, the Toyota Lexus store, they want to have like pictures of Black Panther. They have to license the characters out. They
Okay.
also have to create co-branded ads between Lexus and Marvel, or Lexus and the film, and put it on the website to let people know, like, to look for it within the film.
Okay.
So yeah, so everything is paid for,
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so yeah.
it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah, so I was gonna ask you, we touched lightly on the intro what as to what caused you to form your business, and I don't know if you can elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So when I was living in Brooklyn, I was very stressed. Like, New York is a very stressful, fast-paced city. But I do recommend that if you are younger and you're looking to like fast track your career, you move there or to LA, or somewhere where there's a lot of opportunity. But one of the things that I would do to center myself is I would go to the local department stores and I would like smell all the different candles, and I would pick one for that month and burn it in my apartment, which probably wasn't supposed to happen, but I did it anyway, to help like center myself. But one thing that I noticed again was, like, I read labels, right? And I have a family history of like cancer and other ailments. And it's like people don't think about consumption outside of food, but like what
Oh,
you put in
mhm.
the air, the clothes that you wear, um, the microplastics from your water bottle. Like, there's a lot of things. The media that you consume, it's all a part of consumption, and it impacts your holistic health.
Okay.
So I wanted to create products that had non-toxic ingredients, that still smelled really good, still gave people that sense of nostalgia and peace. And I called it No Label Candle Company, because I felt like, as a Black woman in corporate America and as a Black woman in general, been prejudged by my outer appearance, versus like who I am as a person.
Mhm, mhm.
And I definitely feel like that name still rings true in today's society. And from a business perspective, when I present my business to others and they see No Label Candle Company, they're like, "Oh, well, you private label," meaning I remove my label and I'll put your label on it, which is also true, right? That's also
Okay.
something that I do, but that's not what the initial intention was for the brand.
Right. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your planning process and how much planning process to start No Label, and how long did it take?
So I would say that I kind of had the idea that I wanted to start the business. I have a long, I guess, history with mine. So when I was at Marvel, actually, November 2016, after the election, I took the subway into work. I sat at my desk. I pulled up YouTube. I saw Hillary's concession speech and I cried. And then I was like, I'm going to do something, because one of the board members of Marvel donated $3 million to the Trump campaign. And I decided then that I didn't want to work for, and I was what, like 25, 26. I didn't want to be beholden to a company that didn't share my ethics.
Yeah.
And so I filed my LLC in January 2017, And every December, I do a goal setting meeting with my friends from college. And one of my best friends, Alicia, she called me after that goal setting meeting in December of 2019. And she was like, we can't be dependent on these companies. We need to think about starting our own companies. And I already had the idea in my head. So that kind of like was confirmation to move forward. So starting out, I researched some like regional fragrance companies, candle making companies. I bought a kit, I bought like practice. I started practicing in January of 2020, and then COVID happened.
Hmm.
And so I think that I suffer from like analysis paralysis and perfectionism and all those types of things. But I would say that when you are an entrepreneur, one of the mindsets that you have to adapt is that you need to fail early and fail fast, because you can have an idea of what the journey is supposed to look like. You can try to plan, 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 plan. You can put out the best product that you think is the best, but the market will tell you what they want. So you don't want to spend all this like what do you call it? All your resources, like your financial resources, your time resources, your creative resources, creating the perfect product that nobody wants.
Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
yeah, I think when it comes to planning, there is such thing as over planning, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's better just to like start small and expect to fail and
Hmm.
say thank you that I failed early and thank you that I failed fast, because now it gives me an opportunity to reiterate.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I know as a recovering perfectionist myself, and wanting things to be perfect, it can cause you to delay moving
Yeah,
forward. So I'm glad you touched on, and also the willingness to fail and not looking at failure as this horrible thing. I've just learned, to look at failure as an opportunity. I did learn something from whatever didn't work, and like you say, make different iterations and try it again.
yeah,
Keep trying, because you never know. It might be that 20th try or the 100th try that
yeah,
results in, the win. So,
yeah.
um,
I
so
also
did your
have friends who are like really good at what it is they do, but
Mhm.
and they'll call me for advice. And I'll say, God gave you the idea, but if you don't use it, somebody else is going to execute it, and it won't be executed as well as you would have done it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would say that when it comes to planning, kind of do the bare minimum and more so try things
Okay.
um, instead of waiting for things to be perfect.
Yeah. So let me ask, I know your corporate experience was in marketing, and my question was going to be if that experience helped with running your business, and I think it's probably an obvious yes, but were there any specific ways that your corporate knowledge has helped you with the business that were unexpected?
Um, yes, and I would say it's less about the marketing of a product, but marketing of the person.
Mm,
Um, so people who have worked in corporate or don't work in corporate know the work is never challenging, but the people management and personality management is. And people promote who they like. And in my roles, I worked cross functionally, meaning I didn't just like we all have the common goal, but I'm not just working with my team. I have to connect with the different business groups and the people who are creating the products and the people who are teaching about the products to, our prospects and all of that. So I would say that having done a lot of personality management and marketing of myself has really helped with my business. So
okay.
there are in marketing, we normally have like a funnel, right? So you have like the awareness, consideration, and purchase. I'll just make it simple. And people spend the majority of their money on the awareness portion.
Okay.
And there's different ways to do that. You could do it through paid ads. You could do it through paying to be a vendor at a festival or a farmer's market. Like there's different things you could do. You could pay for influencers, stuff like that. So starting off, I used my global marketing experience really to tap into like word of mouth and do a lot of like farmers markets and the festival route, and then go into the ad space. But I would also say that just because I'm well versed in marketing doesn't mean I don't have opportunities to learn. Like,
Mhm. Yes.
I have not been interested in being the face of my brand. That is not something that I want to do. But going back to the fact that we set goals every December, me and my friends, one of my goals was to be less stubborn and to get comfortable with being the face of my brand, because that's also a form of marketing, and people want to buy from people that they like and people that they know, and people that
Yeah.
feel like home. um so yeah, so I think there's still things to learn, but I would definitely say my experience with people has
Mhm.
probably been the most beneficial
Okay.
in helping me develop and grow my brand.
Well, let me say I'm happy to hear that you've decided to, or at least you're really considering being the face of your brand. I think that you should do that, but so I'm glad to hear that you're willing to do
Well,
that.
thank you. Yes, it took a lot of convincing, working on my
Yeah.
stubbornness.
So let me ask, have you noticed any significant differences in between working in, corporate and running your own business?
Yes, I think one thing that I wasn't necessarily anticipating is, again, like when you're working for a corporation, you have collaboration and you have resources. So at the beginning of last year, I was trying to set up my email application, right? My email marketing application. And it took like 2 months. And that was very
Oh,
frustrating
wow.
for me because, and I'm submitting tickets and trying to figure out why the integration isn't working and all of that. And I know that, if I was trying to set up an email nurture on an email marketing platform in corporate, it's a 12-hour to 24-hour turnaround because the
Yeah.
resources are there, the experts are there. And it was very, very frustrating for me because I'm like, I know how long this takes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I know that you're giving me the runaround, and company A is blaming company B. And it's like, okay, it got to the point where I was like, okay, you guys should have some tech solution managers that need to, like, that have relationships with this company. You need to call them, right? Like, I can't keep going back and forth with you. And I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
when you are an entrepreneur, a lot of the time you're starting off as a solo entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So all the
Mhm.
responsibilities are yours.
Mhm.
And I think it's good to start off that way so you kind of understand like the different pieces of the business that are required to become successful. But eventually you have to outsource, you have to ask people for help, but you need to know what you need to ask for. So
Okay.
I would say that's probably the biggest difference is
Mhm.
being patient with others, but also not allowing people to play in your face. So,
I'm sorry, you said being patient with others and
and
not allowing.
not allowing people to play in your face,
Gotcha.
because like
Gotcha.
um, let's say for example, uh, I was reaching out on Upwork to find somebody to like help me out between now and May for the affiliate marketing. And I'm putting out the job description because I know exactly what it is that I want. And I'm saying, hey, this is what I need to do. These are the platforms that I want to leverage. Da 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 da. So I'm going out and I'm saying, like, what's the like? This is the scope of work. Let me know what the cost would be, right? And I get different bids from different people, and someone submits a bid, and they're cost effective. They're like $15, $18 an hour, and I'm like, okay, well, for you to go onto this platform and pull 1,000 like influencers names, email addresses and information, how long would that take you? And the person responded, oh, like for every 100 people it would take 10 hours. It won't take you 10 hours because I've done it, or
Yeah.
I've had someone do it, and I know
Yeah.
that it takes 3 hours to pull 100 people or 2 hours to pull 100 people. And if I didn't have
Wow.
that experience, I wouldn't
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's important to like know the different pieces, but
Yeah.
also realize that it's okay to hand things off to people, because sometimes, like I said, it's like your baby, it's your child, it's what you're growing,
Hmm.
and you're very protective over that. And it can be hard to offboard or
Yeah.
onboard something to someone else. And you have to realize that you don't need to find somebody who can do it 100% to the ability that you can do it. You need to find somebody that can do 75 to 80%, because the time
Mm.
that you're getting back, you know.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went through that experience, and I found someone. She's amazing. She costs a little bit more per hour, but it's less hours. So that's like,
Mm.
the handoff that I'm working with. But I'm grateful, and I'm grateful that I have the mindset where I'm not afraid to hire and fire as well.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'm not the type of person who believes that, okay, well, we're working together, but it's not really working out, and I'm spending all this money, my money, because I'm
Yeah.
self-funded, but I'm a nice person and I don't want to. Nope, nope, nope.
Yeah.
You can't you can't think about it that way. You have to think about it like, you can still be kind, but don't be nice, right? Give
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
opportunities to correct themselves, but a business is a business, and it's not personal, it is business. And there's ways to communicate, your needs, and there's ways to correct people. But also, if you give someone a timeline for improvement, maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they need to,
Yeah.
take some time, do some studying on their own time, and come back to you, and so on and so forth. Like, the person that I'm working with now, she's younger. She was like my age when I decided to start my business. And she's also another Gemini. I love me some Geminis. I'm not Gemini, but I do love working with Geminis. I feel like we communicate very well together. And she had never set up a campaign in TikTok. So we record a
Mhm.
video. I show her how to do it. And I let her know there's no such thing as a bad question, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd
Yeah.
rather you come to me and say, I don't know something, than think you know something and waste time. And
Yeah.
so she's texted me yesterday, like, hey, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And that makes me feel comfortable, because it lets me know that even though you are the expert in social media, there's an
Yeah.
area where you're trying to grow your skill set. And I want relationships to be symbiotic.
Mhm.
I want to
Mhm.
help you as well grow your skill set, because who knows?
Yeah. No, I think all of that, everything that you said is great, and it reminds me of just even though you have your own business, you were able to use the skills
Mhm.
from corporate because you're really managing people. Like everything that you were saying, it reminded me of when I worked and I managed people. It's like how do you recognize when someone might be in a role that it's not a good fit
Yeah,
or it is a good fit and you kind of help develop them and you have the patience. So yeah, I think that's great.
yeah.
Um,
Patience. Ooh, yeah. Mhm.
I know, right?
Required. It's a requirement for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about your products. Can you tell us a little bit about the ingredients, your product lines? I don't know if you have any there that you can actually show.
Yes.
Um,
So I have two lines, right, and two target audiences. I have the farmers. I was trying to see if I had any around. I don't really, but I have the farmers market faves, which are, let me see, um, these, right? So it's like the standard, like, amber jar that you would get at your local farmers market. Also support your local farmers market, because groceries are expensive. They're 8 ounces. I have like 9 different fragrances for these candles. They're made with all natural soy wax that comes from North America. It's got like a very sleek look. And the thing about it is they're unique fragrances. So this one is called Southern Comfort. I didn't know it was a drink because I don't drink, but it is Georgia peaches and sweet tea, because we moved to Atlanta when I was 9. So I spent a lot of time here, and everything kind of has an ode to a different, like, moment, right?
mhm.
Or significance in my life and the lives of others. We have Park Date, which has fresh cut grass in it and other things. And then we also have car perfumes. So, like, these little perfumes. Let's see.
Okay.
So this one is a clean cotton fragrance, and it's made with a reed diffuser base. Like, the diffuser base is how the fragrance oil, like, permeates the space. And so I use an eco-friendly reed diffuser base, so like less chemicals in it. The same thing with the candles, like with the all natural soy wax. We use zinc-free wicks. We
Okay.
make sure that the fragrance oils are phthalate free. A lot of people would say, well, why wouldn't you use essential oils? N- There's a very small like list of essential oil fragrances that blend well with certain candle waxes,
Okay.
because you can put essential oils in your candle, but then when you light it, it smells bad. And
Oh.
that's not the vibe, you know? So so there are ways to produce, fragrance oils that don't have a lot of chemicals. And what you'll probably see is like Prop 65. So Prop 65 is something that the state of California actually put together to say like, hey, this will cause cancer or this won't cause cancer.
Oh,
So yeah, and then we have like this other set of jars. So this one is hibiscus and cucumber melon. So I have different fragrances for that, and that's like the farmers market fave line. And then I have the Luxe line, which are these candles, right? So these ones, this is like a version of it, and there's like six of these. This one is actually my favorite. This one smells like caramel. So I like the wood wick when I'm in the shower because I like to use God's light in the morning. And then it comes
like,
with
can I you like that in your bathroom, I take it?
in my bathroom.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
it comes with this seeded dust cover. So there are instructions on the dust cover, and there are little like wildflower seeds in it.
Oh,
So the idea is I want to be like waste not, want not. Um, so these are made with all natural American made coconut and soy wax.
okay.
Again, phthalate free fragrances that I get custom blended in Georgia, as well as I get fragrances from North Carolina and Florida as well. Vessels come from Tennessee. So I do make sure to support like other small businesses, and they burn for up to 100 hours. So the Lux line candles, they're $53, but it's kind of like getting multiple candles in one. But
Mhm.
the idea is that when you're done with your vessel, some people like to, keep it. And I was thinking
Mhm.
about them being like potted plants, right? So
Ah,
cleaning out the vessel, reading the instructions, planting the seeded dust cover, letting the wildflowers grow. So it's like a dual purpose, because recycling, upcycling, all those things are very, very important to me. And then I also have these like travel sized perfume
okay.
sprays.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is a custom blended fragrance. I keep going across my face, but ooh ah. And it's like you can refill it.
Uh,
I like
okay.
to travel, so these are travel approved, and it's a very unique fragrance.
Mhm.
Right now, I have the one. It is hibiscus, ylang ylang, dark musk and amber, so it's unisex.
Okay.
Um, People love it, and even with this one, it has an organic sugarcane alcohol base to it. So I remember when I was doing a trade show last year with one of my friends, one of the buyers, she has a cat and she had cat scratches, and she sprayed it directly on her cat scratches. And she came back a couple hours later. She's like, I'm going to buy like five because they're amazing and they're not agitating my skin.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for me, it's like, I don't want to make anything that I wouldn't want to consume or use myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sell you crap. You know what I mean? Like that's just,
Right.
and that's integral to my business and my business model, which costs me more, right? It's going to
Mhm.
cost me
Mhm.
more to produce the products, but that's okay because there are enough people out there that think like me, and who see the value and
Mhm.
quality over cheap.
Yeah. Well, and let me say, I have used, a couple of the candles in my own home, and I absolutely love them. I think one of them was, oh yeah, it was in a silver tin, and
Hmm.
then I had the, I don't know, kitchen home cooking or something like that, something in the kitchen. I don't know. I love that one, and I bought one of my best friends one of the Lux line, and she travels, and she used it during her meditation, her morning meditation, and she said she absolutely loved it. So I will definitely and I have the roll-on of the
Oh, yeah.
travel perfume, and I love that too. I traveling a lot, so it's nice to have something,
Just throw it in
handy to carry.
your bag.
Yes, yes. So I love them, and I will include, website information and where to buy. I mean, are there outside of farmers markets, are there stores where people can buy the candles, or is it mostly
So we got our first distribution deal last year with Kroger,
okay,
and Kroger has different like sub brands that they own. So a lot of people don't know they own Ralph's grocery store, they own Harris Teeter, which is in like the Carolinas area, really, and then they own Vitacost, and Vitacost is a health and wellness like e-commerce business. So I submitted for a pitch for a review, and we met with Gwen, our category manager, in September. And she kind of already had an idea of what products she wanted or she felt like her customers would enjoy, which is
right?
always nice. And again, she like we sent her product samples, and she wanted 9 out of the 6 farmers market
Wow.
faves, and then
Okay,
all 3 of the car perfumes that we had. And that's a cost in itself, but we could talk about that. But I'm trying to point people to finding No Label Candle Company or No Label Candle Co. on Vitacost so they can see that, there is a market and an interest,
okay,
for our products, on that platform. And I also reached out at the beginning of the year because I wanted to know about there's like upselling and cross selling. So I was like, okay, well, we're in Vitacost. How do we get into Ralph's? How do we get into Kroger? How do we get into, Harris Teeter? And if you're in Vitacost, you can't go into Kroger. If you're like, there's
yeah,
different rules and stuff like that. But yeah, so nolabelcandlecompany.com if you want to get the Lux line products. But we recommend that people go to vitacost.com to get like the farmers market fave products, and definitely leave a review. Leave a
okay,
positive review, right? Um, I think that, some people can be persnickety and they're like, well, nobody deserves 100, so we're going to give you 4 stars out of 5 stars. That really hurts a
mhm,
business.
yeah,
Don't do that. If you know you love it, act like you love it, because again, we were talking about that marketing funnel, word of mouth, right? Word
yeah,
of mouth is not just me talking to you in person. It's also you leaving a positive review online, and somebody who hasn't tried the brand, who might be interested in it, going and reading what it is you have to say. So those
mhm.
are really, really important, especially for small businesses. Um, so yeah, so I would say those are 2 places you could go.
Well, and thanks for mentioning the importance of reviews because I typically write reviews
Mhm.
and I have to tell you that I have had the mindset of the 5 stars. So I'm going to rethink that for myself because growing up, I've just equated that with perfection. And then, like you said, you think, well, no one's perfect. But I'm going to change the way that I view that. So I'm glad that you shared that aspect of if someone gave me 5 star service or a 5 star product, I need to look at it from the perspective of the service was 5 star and not
Yep,
thinking about the areas that they can improve that I don't even know about.
correct.
So thanks
Correct.
for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you share, if you haven't already, 2 or 3 things that you've learned as a business owner, like from the perspective of knowing what you know right now? If there are 2 or 3 things that rise to the top of the dang, I wish I would have known that or done that differently, what would they be?
There's nothing I would have done differently because I think everything's a lesson, to help you get better in the future. I would say be patient with yourself and be patient with others. I would say if you really want an opportunity and you don't get that opportunity, it's not the opportunity for you.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that's okay because you don't want to waste time on opportunities that aren't for you.
Mm,
I would say that stand your ground when it comes to your cost. of your products. That's another thing.
Mm.
I remember like when I first started out and I had like the 410s, the yeah candle you're mentioning, sacred space, clean house, um, and camping. And I remember I presented them to one of my friends, and they're like the 8 ounce tens, and he was like, "Oh, well, how much are you charging for these?" I was like, "Oh, 12.50." He's like, "Oh, well, that's too expensive." And I was like, "Okay, well, you're just not my audience." Like
Yeah.
that's no skin off my back. Like, and then he texts me at the beginning of the year because I announced Vitacost, and he buys one of these for 24.99, right? So it's kind of like don't use your knowing when to use your discernment, right?
Yeah.
Between someone's giving you like constructive feedback or somebody's just chatting, like
Yeah.
I went out with one of my girlfriends. She's a federal worker, so I wanted to check on her at the beginning of the week. And we were talking about the fact that I want to innovate, right? And innovation is really important. Like I have the Lux line, I have this, but there are other things that I want to do, spaces I want to grow into. And I was like, I really want to do candle making kits, right? So like that's kind of like how I started. It was through practice, and I've taught candle making workshops. Why can't I, record a video of me teaching the content, um, put a QR code on the box, provide the different items so at least they know the quality of the items in there. Um, and sell those to people so they can try it for themselves and love the fragrances and move forward with that. And she was like, yeah, you could also sell those at churches. She's like, they have women's ministries and they have different retreats and stuff like that, and it's a fun activity. And I didn't even think about that. So it's like
Yeah.
knowing when to like take an idea, and that you have, and knowing who to share that with, and knowing,
Yeah.
who like
Yeah.
really, wants like to help you grow in your
Yes.
business versus people just like, because people are like, you should do candle making classes, you should do candle making workshops. So that's not a bad thing, but it's like
Yeah.
that's not scalable because I am one person. So how do
Yeah.
I like take the idea and make it scalable?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to have community. Um, and that's another thing. Definitely lean on your community and don't be afraid to ask for help, which we talked about before.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the current environment. I don't want to
Yeah, sure.
name any names, but with changes that are happening in the current environment, can you talk about if trade policies, do they affect your business?
Yes.
Do you foresee them? Yeah. So can you talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit? Like how did they affect your business?
So yesterday there was an executive order signed or released to people about the pausing of like federal aid grants, loans. So if you are a small business, one thing that I will say that I didn't mention was before starting, I probably would have applied for grants,
Okay.
instead of self-funding. But I am self-funded. That's my journey. That's my experience. But businesses need capital,
Mhm.
and it's better to have capital from friends and family or a zero interest federal loan or state loan or state grant, etc., than to take out a big loan from a bank with a big, interest payment, because then you have financial stress and then you won't have the mental clarity to,
Yeah.
be creative. So that is a big financial impact to businesses. Another financial impact is being international, right? Like my goal for my brand, for No Label Candle Company, is to be known amongst a certain target audience that exists within the US and outside of the US. And
Okay.
to say, okay, well, Colombia, you pissed me off, so now you're going to have to pay 25%, you know, taxes, or there's going to be a 25% tariff, which we as Americans pay. So that means when you're getting, I don't know, bananas,
Oh,
coffee,
okay. Okay.
Colombian coffee, that, $2 cup, at 25% to that, and
Yeah.
so then you get into these tariff wars. So it makes it more challenging as a small business for you to negotiate deals with these different countries because they don't like who's in office. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with you, but it has everything to do with your representative. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
unfortunately, too many of the American people chose a bullish bully as someone instead of choosing somebody who wanted to collaborate and work together.
Yeah.
Now, if also there was a policy um, that was being pushed for small businesses to give small businesses $50,000 to help with like startup costs. So like hiring your first person, getting your like commercial space, supplies, like it takes a lot. And because I have supported other businesses, I know that a lot of businesses for the first 5 to 10 years operate in the red, meaning they're operating in
Okay.
the negative. For an example, with Netflix, right? The reason why they're increasing their costs is they were operating at a deficit for so long, but that's the business model of a lot of businesses. It's to
Yeah.
operate at a loss so you can get money on the back end when you submit your taxes, you get a big tax refund, and then you gradually start operating in the black. Um,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I would say that knowing that is important. I would say that the tariffs, it's going to be interesting navigating those relationships. I would say that it's to me again as a black woman, and I will say this publicly because I believe it. I think that the education system in America works the way it's supposed to work. And I feel that minorities are often educated inside and outside of the classroom. So there's like because you have to learn your subculture outside of the classroom because it's not taught in the classroom. So we know that our people have been disenfranchised, and in the different ways we've been disenfranchised. So while this is a stressful situation for a lot of people the first time, it's not new to us. So
Right.
I
Right.
understand that, tariffs will be challenging to navigate, but I know it's possible.
Yeah.
I just know it's
Yeah.
going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more work and a little bit, more resources. But
Yeah.
luckily for us, cabinets are temporary if we do what we're supposed to do. So if I foster those relationships now and I, work on growing that side of the business now, in 4 years, when hopefully
Yeah.
we have a different situation, it's smooth sailing. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think people should really be mindful that there is not a separation between politics and business.
That's you've shared a number of good points, and I thank you for that. And I was actually thinking, shoot, I may have to invite her back
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
elaborate on some of those. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to go on to the next question. But since I've retired, one of the things that I've had to do in addition to shifting my mindset, it's changing how I work and being okay with changing, not working 8 to 5. I think, okay, how many hours do I want to work, and are
Mhm.
they in the morning, the afternoon? So with your business and when you transition, I know you've been doing it for a few years, but did you have any kind of mindset shifts that you had to
Make
do and yeah, make and even how you work, like the number of hours, which days you work. Do you take days off? How do you do self-care too?
Okay, I will say that I've learned that I'm naturally workaholic
Okay.
because when the tech company announced the layoffs, or that they were being acquired, which means layoffs are coming, one of the first things I did was write down what I wanted my day to day to be like for my own business. I did not really concern working for anybody else. I felt like this was God's opportunity for me to work for myself and to explore what that looks like. Companies will always be there. And one thing that I added was working out, which I wasn't
Okay.
doing as much when I worked in corporate. So I started going to Infernal Pilates every morning on Wednesday.
Oh, I love
And
that.
like I mentioned yesterday, like I did like a run cruise. So we did a 5K. So just finding different ways to move my body, I've added, but the hours are still the same. Like I I have found myself really last year, because last year again was my first full-time year, being like, okay, girl, it's 5 o'clock, close the computer. Okay,
Okay.
it'll be there tomorrow. Like everything
Okay.
doesn't have to be done today. But I would say I still put in the same amount, if not more time, um,
Okay.
working for myself than working for somebody else. So yeah.
Okay.
And I do think that is required in order for you to be successful. No matter how large my team gets, I probably will I probably will still work, a full time schedule.
Mhm.
And then in terms of self care, definitely working out. And then I have trips, right? So I
Okay.
love to travel. So I'm planning trips with one of my international reps now. He's like, anytime you're planning a trip, let me know. So you can also get a little bit of business done. But
Okay.
my goal is to be able to continue to sustain myself and my future family and to own my time. And owning
Okay.
my time doesn't mean working myself into the ground.
I love it. I love it. I think that's I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't learn that until I got older, so it makes me feel very good to hear that you at a younger age you recognize the need to do that.
yeah,
So I totally love it. So let's talk a little bit about technology. What
yes.
role does technology play in your business operations?
A huge role, right? So like your website is a piece of technology.
Mm,
The integrations you have, like earlier when I was talking about email marketing, that's an application. You want to clean up your content. Like for me, I'm dyslexic. I use Grammarly, right?
okay.
So sometimes before I send out an email, I'll put it in Grammarly. That's an application. Um, Operations, logistics, right? Tracking your inventory, that's an application. So you have to have some type of tech savviness or know who to hire
Yeah.
who is tech savvy, who can kind of like put together like a startup kit of the different applications that you'll need in order to run a successful business.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so it plays a huge role. And as I continue to think about distribution and those types of logistics, like what technology would make it easier for me to ship my product, deliver it on time, track the deliverability. Like I had a situation where Kroger has 3 warehouses, and they said that I had a shortage for one of the warehouses, and me being me, I was like, I take pictures. Okay. I take pictures of boxes. There's some type of technological, piece to FedEx, like when they're writing their coding and their instructions to make sure that once the box get there, Asia gets the digital receipt to say that this
Okay.
person picked up this box at this time. So I'm able to sending information back and forth. And I think that people are really concerned about artificial intelligence, so Gen AI, and
Mm,
how that's going to play into your healthcare, right? We saw with
mm,
United Healthcare how that's going
yeah.
to play into like your business, how that's going to play into like your ability to be hired. And I think
Mm,
it's important to lean into what's going on instead of being afraid of it, but then
yeah.
also lobby for what's important to you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so there are a lot of applications that can do a lot of things. I actually had an idea with one of my old coworkers and friends, another Gemini, and we were talking about starting a podcast actually to review the different marketing AI tools, right? To kind of like,
Oh,
like we're talking about like customer reviews, like, okay, DeepSeek just came out. We tested it for my business. This is what we
yeah.
learned from it. This is what we would rate it. This is how you could use the application because there are so many different tools that are coming out and it can be overwhelming and you can feel
Yeah.
inundated with information. So yeah, so finding the best tools for you, it's important because again, your resources are really money and time.
Yeah.
So
And
you got to
time.
find ways to free up your time so you can innovate and do other things.
Yeah. I like the idea of that podcast too, because and I am learning to embrace AI. It's something new, even though I worked in tech and IT. Um, I think by the time AI came out, my brain was at its capacity and I was like,
Right.
I
You're
couldn't
like,
learn
I
another
know it.
thing. But now I'm trying to add it to the list of things that automatically come to mind when I want to do anything. And like you're saying, there's so many applications. I mean, just for me in exploring trying to do things differently with my YouTube channel and a couple other things, there's so many tools
Yeah.
for podcasting and it can get overwhelming. So I think I like the idea of you guys, if you have the time, doing some of the marketing reviews because the people that trust you, will say, okay, let me take a look at it. Not
Yeah.
saying I'm going to buy it, but let me take a look at it because she gave it a thumbs up or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
I like helping people. I like teaching people. Um, and I do feel like now I'm at a place in my business where I can have hobbies.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I feel like
Good.
we as Black people don't really have hobbies. Everything's a hustle. Um,
Yeah.
and it makes sense, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need to, with federal programs being cut, people don't have their Medicaid, they don't have their
Basic.
SNAP, they don't, so you're focused on what's right in front of you. How do I feed my family? How do I eat? So you don't really have the creative capacity to think about hobbies. But
Yeah.
I think hobbies are important and they'll keep me from burning out. So that's definitely a hobby that I want to get started. And I have to convince my partner to get started with because she's also a perfectionist. And yeah, so I'm working with her on that. I'm working with
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so, we've run through the questions. I just wanted to ask, based on our conversation, is there information that I didn't ask a question about that came to mind while you were speaking that you'd want to share or anything that you feel might be helpful or inspiring to the viewers?
Helpful or inspiring. I think we covered it. Like just to recap, try. It's okay to try. It's okay to fail. It's okay to start over. It's okay to listen to other people.
Yeah.
Knowing when to listen to other people. It's okay to take your time. You do not have to jump on every opportunity. All money is not good money. Um, it's okay to reward yourself along the way because it's a journey.
Mhm.
Um, that's another one. That's a big one. It's okay to ask for help. You don't know everything. So yeah, so I think that it's a beautiful part of my life. And even if I get to a place where I'm like, okay, I want to go back in corporate, I will never regret this time. I don't think I
Mhm.
will. I kind of
Yeah.
have a feeling that my nose is itching so badly. I'm sorry. I kind of have a feeling that No Label Candle Company will be successful.
Mhm.
And I define success as being able to take vacations, when I start a family, being able to tell my kids no because I need to be humble, not because I can't afford it. Being able
Mhm.
to hire underrepresented talent because even though DE and I and equal opportunity is gone, that doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to me and my business.
Yes.
And to pay people what they are worth, that is success to me. Providing quality product, that is success to me. So even if I get to a place where my business is successful and I do decide I want to go back and be a VP and da 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 da, I want to have the option of doing that. So don't just feel like because you've chosen to become an entrepreneur, but you want to or you have to go back into corporate to raise capital for yourself, that you've done something wrong. It's your journey. You
Ah,
decide. Don't allow other people's judgments to impact your decision or make you feel bad about the decisions that you're making.
okay. Well, thank you so much. I just want to take a moment to say thank you again to Asia for having this conversation with me. And I hope all of the viewers enjoyed it and learned something.
Yes. Yes, and thank you so much for inviting me to have this talk. And we can definitely have a follow up because it's the beginning of the year, and I'm sure there'll be lots of snippets from this conversation. And I would love to like pulse check throughout the year and see how things are going with you and your retirement, and and then share more about like what's going on with like the new administration and businesses and what businesses can look forward to. So.
All right. Thank you.